Welcome to the Vine Resources Podcast Show with your host, David Lawrence.
Welcome to another edition of the Vine Resources Podcast Show. Well, I've got a fantastic guest for you this week. His name is Sten Saar. He is the CEO and co-founder of a company called Zego. Thanks for joining me, Sten.
Hello.
Sten, why don't we get started straight away? Tell us a little bit about the company.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Sten, and CEO and co-founder of Zego. So we are an insurtech who provides insurance for commercial motor and also new mobility. So, for example, all the food delivery drivers out there, private hire drivers, Uber drivers, for example, and also like many, for example, Amazon fleets. And most recently, for example, we insure several electric scooter trials in the UK. We started out 4.5 years ago, and now we are around 200 people in 5 markets and trying to offer the new best insurance solutions for these growing markets.
Now that's you've got an amazing story because the growth has been quite exceptional, and you've only started the company a short time ago. Very new. Tell us. I mean, you as you said, you've grown to nearly 200 people and still rising. You've got offices in Shoreditch, in a normal world as well. I think you said you've had north of 60 million now raised from investors. What's the secret? What have you done different from others?
Well, initially when we went into, like, my co-founder and myself used to work at Deliveroo. So there was a clear problem there of onboarding new drivers. And one of the reasons why it was slow or painful was because of insurance. Because, like, very simply, we all do food delivery, and in order to be a food delivery driver, you need insurance, and that costs you like 3-4 times more than your normal car or scooter insurance. And then if one of those platforms tells you that, well, come and work for me, I'll pay you per job, but I can't guarantee your income, but I need to see an insurance certificate up front, it's a pretty big commitment. And we thought, well, why can't you just do it by the hour? You just kind of work, you then have insurance, you don't work, you don't have insurance. Logical. Mm-hmm. We told lots of people, they said it's a great idea. Told lots of insurers who said it's a terrible idea, until we found one who said, well, let's give it a go. And then in 3.5 months, we built the product, got going, and 1st of August 2016 had our first customer, and we kind of went from there. Now, why I'm saying this is we went to solve a very simple, logical problem. And once we solved it, we realized actually insurance overall is not fit for purpose across the world. The world has moved on. If you think about some of the big trends, ownership changing to usership, there's more urbanization, and the average kind of tenure in a company that people stay is shortened. People move houses a lot more. So all those kind of traditional annual policies aren't that applicable anymore. People need flexibility, and traditional insurers have not been able to offer these products, and hence we've gone into that. Now, insurance is one of those industries that hasn't seen much tech disruption until very recently, and the other side, we are in kind of a motor insurance space that again requires new innovative products when the ownership is changing to usership and many other large trends. And so I wouldn't say that we've just kind of saw a problem and then stumbled upon a big industry kind of a flaw that needs to be fixed.
That's really interesting, and it's really interesting, that story at that beginning. Is that I'm interested just to touch on those 3 months, because again, a lot of our listeners are probably quite interested in this. How did that go from, you were knocking on doors, clearly some of those legacy insurance providers were coming up with their own solutions, or they've got innovation teams, people within those businesses. What was it like in having those meetings, and how did you get that breakthrough, and what was how did it develop very quickly from there?
Yeah, it was very, very, I would say we were lucky finding our first partner, to be completely honest. Lots of I've heard some stories of founders. Yep, I had a brilliant idea. I knew what I was doing. I'm so smart. I smashed this. Yes, I'm great, right? I would say the success a lot finding the first partner came down to just pure luck and someone naively believing in us, right? I'm so pleased they did it because that opened many other doors. But if they hadn't, I don't know where we would be. 99% of people and companies were just no, 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 no. It just makes no sense because normally the way they think about pricing and insurance is that you buy an annual policy, but you only drive 2%. So you actually, a lot of while they're insuring, you're not using it. And here you are, two people who've never worked in insurance, and they're saying, well, we'll charge kind of a half a pound or a pound, while someone is always driving 100% exposure. They're like, you are mad from a risk point of view, you know? But although when you add all those kind of pounds together on an annualized basis, if someone works full-time basis, it could be 4 times more. But it just enables the flexibility for someone who wants to work less. So there were kind of not very many understood that concept at the beginning, but it was just persistency. Like we're just never giving in. We're just like going to 1, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. You really have to have a thick skin when you try to do something like that, because everyone's going to tell you why you can't do it. No one's going to necessarily tell you how you can or why you should do it. And we just kind of were very persistent. We're like, okay, these are things we need to get done, and just hammered the to-do list and kind of contact list, and that's how we did it. No other science.
No, hey, fantastic. And look, I mean, I love the simplicity from the app as well. I mean, it even can come up and show you potentially what work you're doing on shift with Deliveroo, for example. I mean, it's very clever, and it's very simple. You've got operations or serving customers in 3 or 4 territories in Europe. Am I right? Is the US on the horizon? I mean, there's a very unfixed problem. There's lots of issues with their process there on insurance, or is that too complex?
Yeah, insurance is a $5 trillion market, and call it the motor or auto market is 1 trillion, right? So 20%. And it's the problem or the solutions we can apply are applicable across the world. Yep. So I think the challenge we have is not necessarily what we do, it's more like what we don't do, so that we very specifically target and focus. So for the focus for now for us has been Europe. But as we grow and as we develop, we will definitely explore venture out. Like I'm here to build the next global insurance company that one day will be insuring intergalactic travel rockets by second as we travel. Like that's what we're here to do, instead of having like 150,000 that one of the largest insurers have, to that with like 2,000 or 5,000 people,
Yeah.
Definitely here to build the next great company that our grandchildren will be talking about Zego as they would speak about some of the other largest insurance, as we speak about those largest insurance today.
Now, just to touch very quickly on the product itself, tell us something. Obviously, it's been massively refined since the version 1.0, but tell us what it was like in those early days. What was the feedback from your audience, your investors, and what are the things that you had to do to put it together, probably in very limited time, probably at the time with limited budget as well and resource?
Yeah, we were very practical early days. We didn't over-engineer it because our main objective was to get going as soon as possible. Hence the kind of a speed of execution, because the first product we built was a very simple kind of a web page that was accommodated for mobile, and you were able to do like kind of 2 things on it. You just kind of pick your dates and buy, and as simple as that. And day one we had a customer and we made like £2.30. I still remember this.
Fantastic.
And then we started iterating on back of that. So the product has definitely evolved, like in terms of the concept of you can buy hourly insurance, that still remains and it's still there. Plus we do many other kind of products on top, but like you put it out something and then you start interacting with the customers and then you keep iterating. I don't think there is a kind of often people talk about kind of massive disruption and so forth. Disruption is a summary of lots of small iterations, in my opinion. And I don't think you can be like transformative with a product without doing constant kind of iterations that then in together will look like a big disruption.
I'm always interested if the man on the or the man or the lady on the street is thinking about insurance for their scooter. I wonder if they're talking to each other and saying your name, as if you'd say like a Hoover for a vacuum cleaner or something. Has it got to that level yet?
That would be quite cool, wouldn't it? The name should enable it, right? Yeah, Zego, I'm happy, But well, for example, today half the food delivery market is insured by us. So I would expect in that space everyone knowing Zego and half the drivers using Zego. But it just depends which segments we are focused on, and then today we are focused very much on commercial customers, so drivers on a road or companies who do commercial work, be it delivering food or parcels or people. That's where kind of our focus is, especially now when you think about the kind of COVID world we live in. A lot of like deliveries have massively grown, food delivery has grown, and people using less public transport. So we truly luckily there's a lot of great kind of tailwind for us as a business.
I guess there's kind of two customers in that respect, because you've got the individual who needs the insurance, but you've also got the end client, corporate customer who needs to ensure that they're insured and to get it quickly. So I guess it's managing those two relationships. Is there challenges in that? What are others doing?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's actually one of our advantages. Like Uber had some challenges with the license.
Yeah.
And one of the kind of pushbacks from the TfL was that they didn't know when the drivers were insured or not, because it's very easy I provide you a document and then you tell me I'm insured as Uber, and then let's say I cancel, but you don't know. So we built kind of a feedback loops whereby you buy a policy, we push the data to the platform and say you're insured, and when you cancel, then we tell them that you cancel, and that automatically blocks your account. So make sure that every driver on a road is always insured. It's like significantly better than even traditional companies out there, or even the kind of any kind of a private hire company. So that's a big kind of although it's a small thing for us, it's a very big thing for the safety on the roads.
I mean Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking, that applies to everyday drivers just in general. So that's really smart. So tell me a little bit about what does a typical day in the business look like for you right now? What are you up to every day?
Yeah, it's I would say that probably 80% of my time is spent on Zoom calls. Normally start pretty early, like have a workout or depending on the day, then start kind of at 8 or so. And then pretty much there's a mix of internal calls, there's a mix of investor calls, there's a mix of like the podcast or some of these similar calls we are having. I block out some times to think about some of the big strategic topics. It really varies, and the context switching needs to be so quick. It's quite fascinating when I have back-to-back meetings, like on Zoom, you're like 30 seconds, you're from one room to another, whereas in an office physically, you have like 5 minutes to kind of switch your context. So it's like you need to be way more quicker in that. But it's nothing usual in a sense, like it's kind of a 10 to 12, sometimes 13-hour days. And it's a mix of like money related, fundraise related, strategy related, or team related. Lots of interviewing, lots of hiring, but yeah, I mean it is as busy as I created. People always say, "Oh, I'm so busy," but you are as busy as you put stuff in the calendar.
So just casting your mind back to January of 2020, it'd be good to listen back to this in years to come. Tell me a little bit about what happened in the COVID world. What happened for you and the company? How did you adapt the business? What was the challenges, and what do you see as the opportunities? There's a lot there, by the way.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, January we had like big plans for the year. Planning to raise money very soon, and kind of exponentially growing the team, countries, and so forth. So there was a lots of like kind of a big kind of aspirations. COVID happened, and then because we offer flexible policies, we had a pretty significant drop in sales. And then the advice from everyone was like, right, kind of a get ready. It's going to be a brutal 12, 18 months. So we did a redundancy wave, and we really went through line by line our cost bases, and we spent we're pretty kind of a ruthless in that sense, because you need to preserve cash as much as you can. Yeah. And then did all those plans and assumed very kind of a little growth for quite some time. And then 2 months later, when the lockdowns were lifted, immediately we had a kind of a huge surge of business. And within kind of 4 or 5 months, we were like back to, or like today we are like 30-40% higher than our pre-lockdown highest levels in terms of business. So it came back very quickly, which we didn't anticipate at all. So we then have been hiring again and developing products. We did a bunch of changes in terms of product offerings as well to accommodate a lot more that we've had to be in self kind of quarantine. Then why would you pay for policies? We really focused on the customer and enabling them what's best for them. And then I mean, the business is touch wood doing well, and very well, and there's a lot of tailwind behind us. And someone said really well is like, it's a big storm out there, and we all are in boats, but we're all in different boats. And I'm very appreciative in the boat that we're in. But and now we are thinking, okay, how can we enable a lot with our products? Because our products are all around flexibility, and the future is very uncertain. So actually, we've had a lot of inbound, especially from commercial fleet drivers and commercial fleets who run many vehicles, because there's lots of uncertainty. When the vehicle is not driving, we're not charging, and when it is, you pay for insurance. So we had a lot of interest, and we're trying to kind of reach as many customers now as we can. But it's emotionally, there's been many roller coasters. There's been hours of time with my therapist. There's lots, so it's not been easy for anyone in the business. But I'm still very appreciative. Like, imagine if we were in travel insurance or hospitality or travel. I mean, it's bad, and I really feel for people in those industries.
For sure. What's your sort of thinking now in terms of the future of working, how people have adapted, the good and the bad, and also how will that impact the sort of next generation of workers, especially those that need support around them? What's your sort of thoughts on that?
Overall, I think it's actually accelerated kind of 5-10 years in terms of how people work, which is fascinating. Like, even in our case, like, we were kind of playing with this before, with this concept, or even like distributed teams in customer service areas and so forth. January, I would have said it's kind of a 1 or 2 year process to kind of properly test it without no impact for the business. Now we're forced to, and now we are like, in 2 weeks, it was clear that that's what we're going to be doing moving forwards. So it's actually worked really well for us. So we are now a remote first business, which means that we've already hired like probably 15-20% of our workforce to be fully remote. Now there's important bit that like human and face-to-face interaction is relevant and needed, and how do you kind of consciously build that in? We even designed the office whereby it's a kind of a hot desking environment whereby there's 1 desk per 3 employees. So we don't even have an office where everyone has a desk. So we've kind of gone fully out in that sense, which is great. There is like some brainstorming and some complex problem solving sessions do require face-to-face. So we opened an office in September until very recently, when we all were recommended not to work from office again, we were utilizing that for many like kind of a planning sessions, which was great. And I think it's really going to transform in that regard, which is exciting. The big part, which I see is a real downside, which we've not yet figured out, is junior team members, or like someone straight from uni or who've had very little experience at work. Because normally when you are next to senior people, you pick up all of the behaviors and how they work, and even simple things like how they take their breaks or how they focus on work or how do they set up the desk and so forth. Like there's a lot of kind of a conscious things you learn in a working environment, which today are not kind of you can't do that. You either consciously design conversations around that, but there's none of that. And those kind of accidental kind of kitchen conversations that could lead into hours of some kind of in-depth conversation, and the pulse of the business when you see people, like those things are kind of missing. But we're trying a few things here and there and see what can be happening. Major positive has been what I also think around international businesses, like there's always this kind of ivory tower concept. Oh, there's an HQ and so forth. The moment everyone went to Zoom, everyone's equal. They're on a flat screen 2D, right? So it doesn't matter which country owns. So which has been very positive in terms of engagement and inclusion for different markets.
Well, the interesting thing is once this passes, and let's hope it does soon next year, but once it does, and theatres and restaurants and social hubs reopen, I'm sure there's going to be an influx of people that don't want to necessarily be at home all the time. So there may be some signs to that creativity and corridor moments, but maybe the world has changed slightly. What's motivating? I'm curious to understand what your motivations come from. So, is there any stories from your childhood that has influenced your work ethic now, and how has that helped shape you as a person?
Yeah, I've always been curious in a sense that I've always asked the question why. So my very first business that I started, I was 17 back in high school, and I made like stationery, paper notepads where I put study aids inside of the covers and sold those notepads. It was a huge success. I expanded to 4 different countries. By the time I was 21, I had a team of 22 in 4 countries, made like $1 million. It was a great success story. Then I did many other projects that completely failed, like a kind of imagine like free newspaper for university students. I even bought the project, invested lots of money that I asked my family to take a mortgage on, and then 6 months later I had no money, no project. I think I finished paying the mortgage 3 years ago to my family. So and then I joined One Fine Stay, which was a hospitality business. Then I was Deliveroo, which is kind of a food and logistics business, and now insurance. Now, when you look at this journey, it makes no sense, right? They're all kind of very different industries. But what is a common denominator between all of them is that they are all new kind of customer value propositions that solve the problem.
Yeah.
And hence, like, I'm always been very curious of like asking question why. I tell the team, especially new starters, a little story, which is like there's a 5-year-old girl who's in a kitchen with mum, and mum cooks meat, and before mum puts the meat in the oven, cuts the meat in half. And the girl asks mum, why do you cut the meat in half? Mum says, I don't know, go and ask my mum. Goes to grandma. Grandma says, I don't know, go and ask my mum. Goes to great grandma, and great grandma says, well, I had a tiny oven. So people just kind of do things without asking why. And I guess that's been my kind of curiosity and big driver throughout, is like, why are we doing the things the way we're doing? And is it another way how to do it better? And that's been a big driving force for me. It's like the bigger the kind of a problem, the more excited I get. And I just love to solve problems. It's just fascinating. And I don't necessarily, and the bigger the problem, the more exciting it is. The bigger the problem, the more people it could positively impact. And that's a big driving force for me.
Tell me a bit about, business change and what advice you would give someone if there was one nugget that you would share with someone going through tremendous change. Might be through COVID, it might be through something else, but what advice would you give them?
One that I kept reminding myself through tough times is always what Churchill said, that never ever give up. And then there was another book I read about kind of a founder who built the business, and like there was like one thing that made the business successful was that he never ever gave up. Because you always have those moments of self-doubt. You don't know what you're doing. You've got lots of things you can't influence, but it's very easy to give up. But I think that's my biggest advice. And it's very lonely and it's very easy to do so. And, but it's never give up is my first point. The second point is which is very easy also in a kind of in your founder role or kind of a leader role is, excuse my French, but kind of believe your own BS, right? Mm-hmm. It's very easy to tell the stories to yourself and believe those, and because you are telling to others, then you suddenly start to believe it yourself. But it's very important that you actually look at your business very rationally, no emotions involved, because you've been building it, all kind of sweat and tears goes in there. It's very easy to believe why things work or don't work and just make yourself believe certain things. And if the circumstances change, world has changed, customer behaviors have changed, you just need to make some tough calls. And it's very easy not to make it if you believe your own BS. So that's my other piece of advice, I guess.
So what's your view on the next couple of years? What's exciting you in the industry? And also, I'm just curious to know, just slightly related, but obviously the financial services and fintech banking market was hugely disrupted, and it took time for the banks to fight back. But in the insurance sector, they're trying to innovate, but they're obviously got some challenges as well. So just on two words, what's exciting you, and what do you think the legacy industry is going to look like in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I'll do the first one first. Sorry, I'll do the second part of the question first because they are related. So what's the kind of a legacy situation and what happens there, and compared to fintech maybe? So insurtech and the wave of kind of disruption is probably kind of 3 to 5 years behind of fintech overall. And in fintech, you've seen all those neobanks come about and so forth. And now there's a big question of how much different they really are from kind of a large banks. But I think in order to move a customer from one bank to another, you really have to actually disrupt quite a few things. You have to offer normal bank accounts, savings accounts, shared accounts, direct debits. You have to maybe kind of your investments, your mortgage. There's quite a lot of financial services in order for some customer to move. Whereas in insurance, the loyalty is actually relatively limited or non-existent. Lots of customers use aggregator sites, so they really are shopping for price. The policies are generally just 1 year long, which then means in insurance, which is scary yet also very exciting, is that if I design a perfect product with perfect price, then in 1 year I could own the whole market, right? And this is actually pretty scary if I was an incumbent. So the barriers there are a lot less. Now, why we've not seen significant disruption in insurance is that every, let's say £1 you sell, every 3-4 pounds you sell, you have to hold £1 on a bank account because it's a regulated activity. So you need an insurance license to operate. So if I sell you £108 policy, then I have to hold on a bank account around £30. And that regulatory capital is the biggest hurdle of disruption. Because there is a lot of innovation on the distribution side, but that's not really disrupting the insurance product per se. And but now, because the cost of capital is reducing, lots of funds are making less money through their traditional investment incomes. So everyone is looking at alternative ways of investments. And I think there will be a breakthrough to enable more regulatory capital to startups to then be able to meaningfully write great business and great products. And that's what I'm excited about. So that's the kind of the way I see the difference between those two, and how InsurTech in 5 years' time have had way more significant disruption than companies in banking, for example. What excites me, I am excited about, because every crisis or every this kind of big disruption in the world kind of creates new revelations or new kind of trends, and I'm excited to see what they are. It also makes me a bit kind of nervous, but I also embrace it. So, and I am very excited to be able to, from Zego's point of view, get to many more customers. And I think because of COVID, it's kind of accelerated the need for the products we're offering. Personally, I'm excited. I'm getting married next week, so
congratulations.
It was supposed to be earlier in the year, but so second time now. Hopefully, no other rules will kind of block us. And excited to tell a story to my future kids that there you go, had to kiss the bride in a mask, you know.
Well, I'll just double checking. You are going to be in the same room. You're not going to both be on a Zoom call, are you?
No, same room, and yes, but very limited guests.
Well, congratulations on that. That's an exciting moment in your life. So that's fantastic. Just touch on that one point, just to go back, because I think it's a good one. You made me just think. You dropped in the word loyalty, and I was thinking to myself as you said that, the airlines are pretty good at it. The hotels are very good at it. The insurance market is terrible at it. There's no gamification. There's no points. There's no loyalty. Is there opportunity in the market for that, or is that coming? Do you see, or is that not? Does it not work in that industry in insurance?
It really depends on the insurance product, because if you think about motor insurance, it's a mandatory insurance product, right? And everyone, it's almost considered like tax, and it's like I think the comparison we need to bring there is utilities, right? So you're buying, well, how much you're paying for your electricity doesn't really change how much power you're going to get to your laptop, right? So you just want to buy the cheapest electricity, and then just get your laptop kind of being charged. And insurance, in terms of mandatory insurance lines, is very similar, whereby people are optimizing a lot on price, which is a real challenge for insurers. But if you understand the risk better than your competitor, then you can offer a great price for a customer. The kind of a gamification, and then the other part is the products that are not mandatory, like home insurance or travel insurance, right? There, if the price varies a bit, you are more considering what you're buying, because you're making a conscious decision to buy or protect your assets. But gamification, it depends on an industry. Health insurance, like what one of the large insurers does is that they give you a watch, and if you do a certain number of steps, you can get kind of discounts on items, or they kind of refund you. Definitely, there's many opportunities to do so. But the biggest challenge for insurers is that the infrastructure they use is so old. Like I spoke to one who said that one of the top largest insurers, they call kind of their IT infrastructure is mainframe, which is used from 1982
or something.
And it's, black screen and those green kind of letters, and press 1 for this. And they still use and onboard customers on a phone to those systems, right? Now, imagine if you're trying to introduce some of those elements that you mentioned, it's impossible. So you have to start from scratch. But you've got billions under management and billions under kind of insured risk. How are you actually going to do it? Hence, starting completely from scratch in some of those cases is way more easier. And that's been the biggest challenge. Like there is a lot kind of a health you can do that in motor as well, like incentivize better behavior. But like what we are exploring is that, well, if you're a great driver, how can I offer you a better price in return? And we could replace that price with some kind of vouchers or something else. But if the insurance is mandatory, generally our customer segments more care about the actual cost saving directly into their pocket rather than something else.
Just as a couple of roundups before we finish, just a couple more questions I wanted to ask you. Just Sten, who are you keen to connect with? Who are the people you're interested in building relationships with right now?
I'm always interested speaking to exceptional kind of a talent who is looking to really make meaningful difference in this world and solve problems. I'm in the game of like creating possibilities. As I said, like one day we will be ensuring kind of intergalactic travel on rockets. Like I'm interested in talking to people who want to be solving similar problems because these are fascinating to talk about. And see other synergies to solve something together. Because like we will never alone achieve that, to be clear. Secondly, there's also insurers, because insurers actually has lots of very smart people working there, but they're just kind of hindered by the infrastructure. So I'd love to talk to them and see how they see the world. Yeah, that's, I guess, those two kind of summarize the theme. And anyone else who thinks that they have a completely different view in what was shared, I would love to hear what they think and debate on those things, because I don't think there's right or wrong answer. What we are doing, I don't know whether it's going to be a success or not, and how many problems it's going to solve. Like, I hope it does as many as we think, but you never can be like, yep, I know exactly how the future is going to hold.
If you, just as a last question, if you were giving your 20-year-old self one piece of advice, what would you say?
I would say that like when I was 20, I mean, I thought I knew everything, and the more I've kind of learned, the more I know, the less I understand and know. If I was 20, I would just say, like, a lot of youngsters, I guess, have that challenge. Like, you've got nothing to lose. Give it a go. Whatever you have in mind, because you don't have a family, you don't have a mortgage, and you don't have that many commitments. So you really are kind of at the place that go and explore what's on your mind. You've got nothing to lose. And I always say to some of the best employees are the ones who have gone out there, tried to set up their company or do a project, and then in return, let's say it hasn't worked out, but they are probably the best employees because they've had this experience that kind of someone on a traditional journey hasn't had.
Well, that's great. That's great advice. Nothing on the mortgages then.
Nothing. No. I'm still trying to figure out what is long-term better, to buy or rent a house, but I don't have an answer.
So, as a final one, what's the? There's only a few countries left on the not quarantine list. Have you got any in mind for the honeymoon, or are you saving that for later, or a UK staycation, as it were?
Yeah, it'll be. Yeah, we are quite practical there because we don't know what the next week announcements will bring and so forth. Initially, just the wedding, kind of one-day celebrations, and then maybe what it seems to be a trend now is that kind of 1 year or 2 year celebrations. So that's probably a plan, and then a trip on back of that. So
fantastic.
That's something like very, very down to earth and practical. So.
Sten, thanks so much for joining us. It was really great. And I know I went over a little bit, but you gave us so much value, anyone listening to this. If people want to reach out to you, if they want to connect with you, what's the best way they can do that?
Absolutely. LinkedIn is the best place. Just search Sten Saar. I think there's only one on there. And yeah, I guess that's the best place. Let's start from
Fantastic. Well, we'll add the link to the website, and we'll add the link on your LinkedIn. And good luck, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you very much.
We really hope you enjoyed the podcast today. If you want to listen to more exclusive tips and life lessons from our guest, go to the resources page at vineresources.com.